Hi, Masa. Thank you so much for helping with my project. I know it's kind of last minute and you stepped in there. I really appreciate that.
No, thank you for having me.
You were just talking about how when you heard that NASA was postponing the moon landing in 2025, you immediately thought of me and thought, oh my gosh, she has to do a whole nother year.
Exactly. It's like I don't know, architectural project that right at the end of the semester that you think the project is done, then you find out another idea, or then something happens and say, oh my god, I need to continue this project for another year or another semester. It's like that.
And that is very true. Um, Well, my plan when I started this project 2 years ago around Artemis Day was to always do it to the end of 2024, regardless of what happened. So it becomes a little bit difficult to talk about what am I counting down to, but in reality, I'm just counting down to the end of 2024. Um, so everybody's safe after that time. So, so, Masa, I was wondering if you could say a little bit about yourself.
I'm Mahsa. I have graduated from aerospace architecture from University of Houston, from the Department of, we call it SICSA, Sasakawa International Center for Space Architecture. And before that, I was an architect and I had architecture firm and I was working. I was university professor too, and then I found out about the program. I mean, it's always, I mean, as people say, it's everyone's dream to be an astronaut or be somehow related to space stuff. So when I got involved, I was really happy. Now I'm working on smaller projects for space. Currently, I'm chair for the ICES conference, and I'm involved with different projects, authoring probably a book or two about space architecture. And I'm judge at Deep Space Food Challenge, and we're waiting for the second phase. What else I'm doing? I'm with you guys in Northeastern Space Society. Um, I'm doing lots of stuff, lots of unpaid stuff. So, yeah, that's a
Well, a lot of stuff that should get you a lot of good references and good contacts.
yes, yes, exactly. I mean, space industry is not that big, so knowing not everybody, but most of the people who are kind of related, their research area or their work area is related to your interest is not that big a network. So I think my focus has been always on greenhouse and human factors and so on. So I don't think it would be more than 60, 70 people actually working on about plants and greenhouses in space. So it's a very, very limited edition project with it. I don't know, not me, but other people are really genius that they have followed this route and they have been. I mean, I was just thinking, even for example, sending the first veggie into ISS, that has been a long journey, and us thinking, I mean, putting our feet on those steps and trying to improve it to have, for example, an actual greenhouse on Mars or Moon. I hope it happens when I'm alive.
I hope you make it happen.
Yeah, I hope that too. Because there is no one, I mean, except the Deep Space Food Challenge that NASA and other space agencies, they kind of called for companies, people to send their ideas. Before that, there was nothing about having, we have had, as I said, with Veggie, which is teeny tiny box that produces a couple of plants. We don't have a module that produce food or even salad greens for uh, astronauts in a larger scale. So hopefully after this second phase, because now they have announced, I guess, 20 or 30 winners of the first phase. So hopefully after the second phase, we kind of have a giant step uh, closer to having the actual greenhouse module.
Well, I've always wondered, and maybe you could help me with this. So our body doesn't actually need to eat living things in order to survive. We need certain chemicals. Um, and right now we get those chemicals from other living things. And it's a lot of overhead, right? Because, like to get in an apple, you have to plant the apple seed, wait for the tree to grow, harvest the apple, eat the apple, and ultimately your body's going to break it down into chemical components to actually use anyway.
True.
Why couldn't we actually directly create those chemical that we need without having to necessarily grow things?
Actually, there are some companies, lots of universities that they're working. The outcome is 3D printed, for example, food, steak, anything. But the only problem is that all of these ideas, that even for example, producing a pill that can provide you 3,000 calories per day and you're done, you need to have those chemicals, those very first ingredients in space. How are you going to produce, or how are you going to make chemically those ingredients in space? So you need to have, for example, bring some of the elements and then combine it, and then uh, we don't have any kind of paper or deeply thorough research done that shows bringing those elements is going to be more cost effective than, for example, growing some food and then converting it into food. And number two is the psychological aspect that I don't know if you have ever been on diet or not, but for example, those people who are on a diet and they tell them that, hey, you need to reduce your carbohydrate, instead of, for example, they're shrinking the size of the bread that they're eating, they convert to a thinner bread, which is bigger, but it has the same calorie. So psychologically, just shrinking the food size would make you think that you're going to in starving mode, and then there are going to lots of weird thing is going to happen to your body. It's going to store fat instead of providing more energy to your body. Then you're going to in semi-hibernation mode, which you don't have energy to do anything, but you still, you survive, but you don't have energy, or your brain will not function that on its best capacity to analyze and do stuff. So that is the issue.
I know, but you're going to need lots of psychological adjustments. So maybe you want to choose your battles, as they say. You have to deal with the weightlessness, different dark light cycles, the stress. So maybe when you consider all those, maybe having comfort food, as they say, is definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, actually, I think we have comfort food on ISS once a month, I guess, something like this, because most of the foods in ISS it's dehydrated, and they just rehydrate it and warm it up and eat it, and it doesn't really taste good, and they visually that food is old, because the whole process of making that food is going to take about 2-3 months, so whatever you're eating is probably 4 months old. So mentally it doesn't let you enjoy that food even if it tastes good. So once in a month, or in occasions like Christmas, Thanksgiving, Italian pizza day or something like that, they have actual food. They have the bread, they have the sausage, for example, to make the pizza over there, and that is the treat they have.
Yeah, no, that is, I imagine they really look forward to that and hold on to. I imagine there may be many parts of the timeline that they're fuzzy on, but the time that they get their special meal, I bet you there's not one of them.
Even orange is considered a special treat and special meal over there. Just a simple orange, we can buy it at I don't know, a couple of dollars. Here it was going to cost thousands of dollars to get it on ISS, but that is a treat that they have. The smell of the orange, the that orange, I mean everything, aroma, color, touching, the texture, everything is kind of good for mental health.
Um, so I just wanted to come back to you for a little bit. How did what made you want to get into space architecture? What interests you about space?
Um, that's a hard question. So as I said, I mean, like all the kids, I had that dream of involving in the space industry. So I was just wandering around the internet. I was not really actually doing anything, and I was just googling stuff about space. Then I found out about JIXA, and then I read the website. And I said, "Oh my God, why I have never heard about this thing?" And then I read and read. I remember that that night I was awake till morning because I was so excited about. It was like Newton and the apple, and I find it. I find it. It was like that. That I found my new passion. So, but it took me about 2 years to get to the program because I had to prove that I'm qualified and I am really into space and I'm going to, I mean, I have something related about the space projects and so on. So I had to read lots of books, papers to see what is really about because most of the people that, for example, even on the news and everywhere, when you talk about space architecture, they just think about fancy renders of the moon and giant glass domes on Mars and having, I don't know, palm tree over there, and they think that space architecture is like that, but it is very, very more complicated. At least our program, which is the only program in the world that they have the space architecture, we are in the mechanical engineering department. So everything we learn is interdisciplinary between aerospace engineering, mechanical, industrial engineering, and it is very, very engineering. It's not like producing beautiful renders. So when we're talking about something, everyone is going, how is it going to attach? What rover is going to carry that one? What is the weight? Which rocket can carry that on the moon? How long would it take? Is it pressurized? Is it unpressurized? So it is very, very detailed. And that is one of the reasons, for example, most of the graduates of our program, they work directly for NASA or for NASA contractors. And recently we have had lots of our graduates joining Blue Origin for the uh, what is the new project that they want
Orbital
to have?
Reef?
Yes, Reef. To joining for that.
Yeah, I hear they're hiring like crazy right now.
Yeah, so designing, I mean, if you see interiors of ISS, especially the American modules, they do not consider human factors, not psychologically and not even physiologically to, I mean, move around easily. I mean, comparing that, for example, the simplest difference between the NASA module and Russian module is that the Russian module has different colors that shows you what side is up, what side is down, and for example, which module is for resting, which module is for the lab. But NASA, it's always white and gray, and the Max, I think they have is the module that they have with ESA that has blue handles. That's it.
Hmm. Uh, so you think they should do like mood lighting like they do on United flights whenever they dim the cabin and they have the little uh kind of like the lights?
No, no. So, for example, in Russian module, when they have up and down, because mentally, human wants to know where is up and down. So they have put colors. It has a very olive green color that shows that that is the earth side, and it has a I don't know, a very light bluish color that it has the sky, the upside, and the other walls are about beige, light beige color. So when they're in, they feel it, and it is more rectangular comparing to the American module. They feel like they're in a cubicle, not in a cylindrical. So they know they can navigate better in this situation. And I mean, there are lots of differences. And I think there are a couple of papers about it that how this is affecting. I mean, how sometimes American for example, when they want to rest, they go to Russian modules and vice versa because each of them has its own benefits psychologically.
That is neat. So what are some other human factor things you would change about the International Space Station?
One of the most recent ones that I was reading the news yesterday and today, I was in a meeting with a couple of MIT professors that they were, one of them was, I don't remember the name, was a previous astronaut, and he was saying that they lost an iPad for 3 days in ISS and they couldn't find the iPad. I mean,
Wow.
how can an iPad get lost? I mean, how big is that space? So the problem was that ISIS, especially the American modules, they're so messy, lots of cables, lots of things going on that and from every time they enter a new module, they have to log in into a new iPad and new laptop instead of taking that iPad all the way around. They need to log in into a new iPad. So, for example, I think one of our previous success students, she was working on it, that there are 8 crew and there are about 80 different iPads and laptops over there. Can you imagine the weight of those that is carried on ISS? But except that, just imagine, for example, you working in an office and you logging into new computer every 10-15 minutes. How can that distract your mind from, for example, following your daily routine and fulfilling your job, I don't know, chores? So this is really, for example, you cannot really imagine that even in the craziest office of the craziest job on earth, that is unacceptable, but they're doing it over there. So this is one of the human factors. It's psychologically plus physiologically factors that can distract the crew.
That is interesting. Yeah, and plus with everything floating around, I mean, here you just look on all the flat surfaces underneath stuff, but it's like looking for your glasses and you find out they're in your forehead, except having that moment about everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it, it's crazy.
So talking about the moon a little bit, I was just thinking back. I was watching a little bit of Artemis Day, 2 years ago in December of 2019. I was watching a little recording of that. That's what started my project. And back then it really felt like 2024 was possible. Like, we had the core stage complete. We're going to do the green run. We're going to be over there. We'll launch it in 2021, and we would be off and running. But we had the NASA administrator come out and say that the officially it's going to be 2025. We had NASA's OIG come out and do them one better and say we think it's going to be 2027 or later. And then you have a lot of skeptics out there, and I think a lot of people might not be as hopeful as they used to be. And how do you feel about that?
Honestly, at the very beginning, I didn't think that 2024 is the optimistic or even realistic option. No, it's not going to happen. So we kind of knew it's not going to happen. But we knew that if it's going to happen, it needs a huge amount of money just to be pushed in the industry, or something like the time that the competition between Russians and Americans at the Apollo era, that they were putting they were working 24/7 to just win that competition. So now they don't feel that competition. So, and they don't inject that kind of money in the space industry. So I mean, it's obvious it's not going to happen.
What do you think is going to take to make us actually make it back to the moon?
Um, Actually, I was talking about this with one of our professors, and I was telling him, "Have you seen the series Moonbase?"
I have
It
not.
is a it's a hilarious. Um, I think no, it's in not in Moonbase. Sorry, it's in the Space Force.
I've seen
And
Space Force.
do you remember the
Boots on the
scene
moon by
that?
2024.
Yes. So if you see the Space Force, that they announced it's going to be the first lunar mission, and they go over there and they land, and they're trying to have the first habitat, and they're so excited. It's all in the news and so on, and then Chinese rover with the crew, they're passing by and they're just waving. That is, I think, one of the most iconic scenes of Space Force, and I think that is closest to the reality. That if they don't push harder, they don't uh, act fast, it's going to happen.
Now, what do you think about us going back to the moon? Is it something that excites you? Is it something that you think is important? Or are you like, well, low Earth orbit or Mars or something else? I mean, how do you feel about us going back to the moon?
Um, I I think, I mean, we have cat people and dog people. So we have orbit people and moon people and Mars people. So it's not something that I can say that, hey, I like, I mean, it's in your nature. It's in your DNA that you agree with some of them somehow. So I myself, I love all of them. I hope I can see people landing on the Mars when I'm alive, and I hope I can see the very first greenhouse and 3D printed habitat on Moon when I'm alive. And I'm sure that we're going to have lots of space stations soon, at least. I don't know, in the next 20 years, we're going to have at least 4 or 5 of them.
You said how many years?
In the next 20 years, I'm sure
20
we're going
years.
to have at
Okay.
least, yeah, 4 or 5 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Keeping them safe is a whole nother story, though, with the orbital debris, anti-satellite test, mega constellations of satellites.
Yeah, but satellites, I mean, now they have put the ISS in the lower orbit because of the distance and blah blah blah. But they can put it in a higher one. So I remember that Bigelow and that project at the very first hotel in the orbit. It was way higher than all of these debris and satellites and everything.
Hmm. If it was safe and affordable, would you go to space?
Sure.
How far
I
would
mean,
you
I
go?
my motto is I prefer to die on Mars than live on Earth. So I'll go.
Oh, so you're saying if Elon starts building his million-person city on Mars, you would go and immigrate to Mars?
Sure, definitely.
What do you think that experience would be like? I mean, how different from your life here on Earth do you think being one of those first colonists on Mars would be like?
I'm a very TV junkie, so National Geographic had a series about Mars, I guess. It has 2 or 3 seasons. I think that is the most accurate, at least for that time, the most accurate simulation of living on Mars. Uh, Except the part that they put all most of the habitats under the ground, but everything else, I think that is very, very, yeah, close to the reality. And uh, yeah, I mean, the first generations, even I think to till 2 or the third generations, it's not going to be easy. I mean, it's just uh, fighting for your life every second. So uh, I like it because that makes you produce lots of adrenaline, and it's going to make you, I don't know, hopeful for and grateful for every second that you're living. But on the other hand, then you're risking everything. I mean, I think Elon Musk has a quote that says in other industries, if a project, for example, if you build a building, um, and just 90, I mean, just 10% of doing it good is okay to have an actual house. But in the space industry, even 0.00 failure can cause the whole system to fail. So there is no space for, there's no teeny tiny place for even a smallest flaw in the whole system. So that that's the hardest part, and that's the maybe enjoyable part, that you're designing a system so flawless that people can live in.
That would be amazing. Um, well, I mean, those are pretty much the questions I had for you. Was there anything else that you wanted to add, or any questions you had for me?
Um, my question is, how optimistic are you about the whole even 27? Do you think we're going to really land on 27?
I think there's been a loss of momentum and a loss of faith, and I think there's a lot of concerns about the International Space Station and a lot of concerns about SLS and Orion. Um, so I really hope we do make it, but I think there's some genuine risk. I can see, and plus, as we start to see kind of like changes in the economy, that always makes people question projects like the space program a little bit more, with a lot more scrutiny. It may actually come down to whether or not Starship is successful or not.
Yeah, maybe. Hmm. But I mean, SLS is 40 years old, so even if it works for the first couple of missions, it's not going to last.
I know, I know we need reusable spacecraft that are cheap to fly and cheap to build.
Yeah, true. Oh, and I have a famous question to ask. Do you think we should spend our money to fix Earth, or we should go and build something new on somewhere else?
Well, I think there's a lot of things we do on Earth that are harmful to the Earth, generation of power. I mean, if you think about it, the sun is generating energy in every direction, and only 1/700th billionth of the sun's energy falls on the Earth, and that powers everything. So the sun actually provides an unlimited resource of energy. And if you have unlimited cheap energy, there's so much you can do in terms of transforming matter, building stuff, running computers. So the other thing is we need lots and lots of, minerals. And it'd be good to find out if some of those might exist on the moon or near Earth asteroids that we can harvest. So potentially getting it from those sources would help protect the Earth. Also, on top of that, a lot of humanity is just sleepwalking. We're doing, our houses all look the same as they used to. There's like no changes. A lot of our technology fundamentally stays the same because the cost of changing is so high and the benefits of changing are unknown. But by having to recreate life in these other places gives us an opportunity to challenge those assumptions and potentially
True.
end up with better answers that then we can feed back into the earth to improve things here. And I also think having the idea that you could be a colonist on Mars might be a nice little safety valve for humanity, so that while only 0.00000000001% of the people go, everybody feels like they could go if they really wanted to. That would be enough to make people, I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah, that's good. Will you go?
I don't know. Always dreamed about having a house on the moon. Maybe 100 people living there with big parks. You know, have you been? Did you go to Houston Zoo back whenever they had that bird building? You like walked into it and you walked across to like this Mayan recreation. You have like the birds flying across. That's
No,
my
I
that was
haven't.
my favorite building in the zoo. They tore it down, so it's
No.
sad. But I want to build something like that on the moon, as well as like maybe the butterfly thing like they have at the Natural Science Museum, and
Mm.
you know, have like these big open spaces on the moon. I think that'd be nice. A moon buggy, you go around and explore stuff. A good views of the Earth. Be able to take trips um, to the far side of the moon and maybe look at the really night sky. That might be kind of neat. Um, we'll have to come up with a whole bunch of hobbies and entertainment and pastimes. Moon pottery, moonscapes, you know, moon sports. Anyway, I think I'd be happy with the moon. Uh,
Not Mars.
I I
Too
mean
far.
maybe Mars, um, but I think the moon would be a good practice place. You know, uh, yeah.
Yeah, we can reach Moon, I think, in 2.5 days, max 3 days, but we need 6 months to get to Mars.
And
So
if you're
weekend
willing
trip.
to, and if you find a better propulsion thing, you go faster and slow down. You know, I mean, the 3 day thing was chosen because then you're going slow enough that the moon's gravity will catch you if something goes wrong. You don't have to slide past it. But um, yeah. Well, Masa, thank you so much again. And anyway, good luck on all the things that you're working on. And I look
Thank you.
forward to seeing you at our December 11th um, meeting.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, good night then.
Thank you. Good night.